and then I'm going to head on over to my Excel. So today we are starting with Excel, and what's nice about Excel is it's one of my favorite programs. I work in Excel all the time. I think there's a lot of people out there who actually prefer Excel. Um, they would rather work in Excel than in Word. I've seen people type massive documents in Excel and not in Word, which is so strange, because of course Word is a lot more user friendly when it comes to that. But I've seen people actually do everything in Excel. I think it's because they are uncomfortable with tables, or uncomfortable with columns in Word. But in Excel, we can use these cells and you can actually do anything with them. So I guess that is possibly why. Let's just quickly have a look at a couple of things in Excel before I dive into class participation one. A lot of it looks very familiar. Like, for example, this menu bar at the top is the same as what you would find in Word. And of course, in this ribbon over here, the same. Yeah, the same, but it starts getting a little bit different when you move to the right.
Hi ma'am.
Hi.
Sorry, are you sharing a screen?
Oh, am I not? Oh,
No, you're not.
okay, let me share my window. Sorry about that. Thanks for telling me.
It's okay, no problem.
Let me start again. Okay, so when you look at the screen, it looks a lot like Word when you look at it in the top section. But from here on, it does get a little bit different. And we are going to use most of these things as we continue throughout the semester. And you would also notice that, of course, the screen is a little bit different. The the white space has got cells. We call it a cell. I guess you can call it a block as well. And one of the things that some terminology with regards to Excel is that each of these blocks we call a cell, and each of them have an address. Okay. So, for example, you can also think of it as having a map, and on this map, you get different places. For example, this is my street, but this is my house. This is your street, you live in this one. And how do we know the address? Well, the address is always the column name and then the number. For example, this cell's address is E5. And you can tell that it's E5 because in this block that my mouse is circling now, this is the address box or the name box. So in other words, in this cell, you can tell the address. So you actually just click anywhere in your spreadsheet and it will give you the address of that particular cell. Now, if you are bored one day, you can start scrolling down. Okay. And as you can see, it actually doesn't end. Okay. It does, in fact, end. I think it ends at 46,000 or something like that. But at the moment, we are at 164, and then I'm just going back up. So, of course, this spreadsheet, the lines or the rows are in the thousands, and of course, the columns also. As you can see, at the moment, it is just ABC until you get to Z or Z, but then it starts double A, double B, double C until it gets to that, and then it will start again. Okay, so of course, so many cells. We are never going to use so many. We are basically just going to use the cells that we see on our screens. And of course, if you guys maybe find an employment somewhere, or maybe for those of you who are studying education, you could very possibly end up with a class with 100 students, and then you will probably scroll down until you get to 100. I've had classes like that in the past, and yeah, it's a lot, but there's enough room for all of them, definitely. So you can be assured that you don't have to worry about space. Now, when you go up here, you will see there is also something called fx. This is the function box. It can also be called a formula box. And often you can enter a function or formula or anything you wish in this little text box thing. But whatever you type in here, and let me show you, whatever you type in here will also display over here. So sometimes we might want to use the top section, sometimes we may want to use the bottom section. All right, of course, some of the things are the same, okay? But of course, when it comes to formulas, there's a formula bar which is not in Word. And of course, when you go to insert, also a lot of things that you won't find in Word. When you go to insert, there's some charts that we can insert, and of course some spark lines, which is something we'll do later on. And all of these things we will cover, or most of them we will cover a little bit, because CPT 1 to 5 is only the introduction. If ever you wish to do a very intense Excel module, you can definitely enroll for CPT 244. That is the, I think the accounting students and the management students, they do that. But I think it's actually just the accounting students. So just if you ever wish to. Okay, and of course, when you go to home, you will see there's a lot of conditional formatting and other things here that we might want to use. Okay, so just going to quickly share with you. Let me just head on over, stop sharing. I just wish to quickly show you what we are going to do and for this week. So here in Google Classroom, you would notice that I uploaded participation 1 and I also uploaded the slides. I will be working from the slides, actually not exactly from them, but if you wish to follow along with something that is written down, this is where you can find it. Ultimately, this is what we are going to do. We are going to create a budget with income and expenses, and we are going to create a chart based on this budget. And it's going to be calculations all around for the whole year and things like that. Um, in simple terms, or in the roadmap, or what we can expect, is just to calculate sums and use formulas. So there's a lot of formulas that one can use, in fact, probably thousands, but for this module, you're only going to need less than 10, which is good news. And then, of course, we are going to learn to format the text, because what you see over here is a nice formatted worksheet. It doesn't look like this when you enter your data. When you enter your data, things look very dull and boring. But when you enter your data and you format your data, it turns out to look like this, which is very nice, easy to read, easy to understand. All right. Okay, and then of course we're going to insert a pie chart, okay, which is this round chart. It's always easy to tell what is a pie chart because it looks like a pie and you can cut it up in slices. So we're going to insert that, and we're going to do all sorts of things to this pie chart. As you can see, it's got some percentages or weights on it, and obviously the colors are different. There's a legend on the side. We're going to assign a name to the worksheet. This is our worksheet. I'll show you that just now. And then we're going to preview and print it. Okay, so that is what we will be doing. It's got 53 slides in this whole thing. So if you work through them one by one, I just scrolled too fast. I can't find everything now. You will be able to go through it. But I'm also going to do it on the video. So you can definitely just follow along with me. Here we go. Okay, to start our spreadsheet, I just want to show you a couple of other things. As the best thing to do is to just show you things as I come to them. For example, what I saw now on that slide was workbook. Okay, so what is a workbook? This whole thing is a workbook. Now you're going to think that I mean the screen. I don't actually mean the screen. As you go down here to the bottom of your screen, you will see it says sheet 1, but I can actually add as many sheets as I like. And as you can tell here at the bottom, I'm just pressing plus and it creates more sheets. Okay, so a book has sheets, and that is why this book that I'm working in can have millions of sheets if that is what I like. But I think for us here today, and for until we are done, I think 1 or 2 sheets at the most, depending on where we place our chart. If the chart is on a separate sheet, our book will have 2 sheets. So that is why they call it a workbook. But this that we are working on right now is called a sheet. And if I work in multiple worksheets, which you don't cover in this module, but if you work on multiple worksheets, you can actually use formulas for multiple worksheets, and that is done in a lot of detail in CPT 244. Yeah, I'm just going to delete these sheets because I don't want to confuse you. And as you can see, it's so easy to delete. I just right click on it and I say delete, and then I delete my sheet. Okay, so every chart, or I'm saying chart, every spreadsheet needs a title. And where shall I put? Oh, I should put on my little study lamp. It's going to make me look like the sun is coming up on my face again. But I can see better that way. Okay, now I'm going to enter the title and you're going to tell me in which cells they are. Okay, so this is my personal budget. We are going to take this whole week because I'm going to share a lot of additional information with you as we go along with this. So what I recommend you do is follow along with the video, and wherever we stop today, just try and do that for tomorrow, and then try and do it for Thursday, so that you don't get left behind. Okay, so as you can see now, I typed the personal budget worksheet. Worksheet because I'm on sheet 1. But all of this is in my book, my workbook. Okay. Now, if you look at that, you are going to see that personal budget worksheet goes what looks like to be A, B, and C, column A, B, and C. But in fact, it is not column A, B, and C. Let me show you. When I press enter, you will notice that it looks as if personal budget worksheet goes over 3 columns. But when I put my mouse in A1, remember the address that we spoke about earlier? This cell's address is A1, and you can see the address over here. You will notice that A1 contains personal budget worksheet. What does B1 contain? When I click on B1, it is empty. When I click on C1, it is empty. So even though it looks as if my title is spanning over 3 columns, it's not. It is just 1 column. Okay, now you might say, oh, but it's not fitting in that column. That's true. Let me show you. Whenever you double click on a borderline between 2 columns, you can enlarge the cell to make it fit. But that's not what we all want to do right now, because there's something else that's going to happen to this title. Okay, so don't worry about it yet. So just know that we only entered the title in A1. If ever you are doubting the contents of a cell, click in the cell and it will show you the contents in this box. If this box is empty, that cell is also empty. So just keep that in mind. All right. That is what we call a title. And now we are going to enter the subtitle. And the subtitle is monthly estimates. Okay. Now, again, it looks like monthly estimates is going over 2 columns, A and B, but in fact it is just in one. And as you can see here in A2, that it shows monthly estimates to be the only contents in cell A2. When I click on B2, totally empty. Once again, it doesn't fit, it doesn't look like it's fitting, but A can resize to any size, so it can ultimately fit. Another thing that I'm going to show you later, and I think that is going to come in when we do our formatting, is that you can merge cells. I can merge all these cells together and then it makes one big cell. But let's not jump ahead. Okay. So what we are going to do is in this side, we are going to work with income. So you will notice that I'm not leaving open a line because as per instruction, I'm not supposed to leave open a line, but you should follow the instructions that you get. Okay. So personal budget in the first line, second line, monthly estimates, third, A3 says income. Okay. So now we would like to create a list for all the months in the year. Now we never ever ever have to type every single month, because in Excel there is a nice little feature that says if there is something that follows on each other, like for example January, February, March, April up to December, you can actually just type the first and second one, sometimes just the first one, and it can create an automatic list. So the same goes for 1, 2, 3, 4. The same goes for 2, 4, 6, 8. As soon as Excel can pick up what is the next value going to be, it can create a list. Let me show you quickly somewhere here where I'm not going to do anything. Let's say I want to create a list that adds 2 every time. Okay, so I'm starting with 2. My next one is 4. Okay, I select both, and now you will see, oh, Excel is picking up that I'm adding 2 every time, as you can see. 2, 4, 6, 8, and so it goes on. You can do the same with 3. 3 and 6. Excel is saying, oh, okay, she's adding 3 every time, and now they will create a list with 3. Okay, what about, you can do this for anything. 5, 5, 10, 15, so and so. Once again, you just select both of them and go down, and that will create a list. Okay, so this is just an easy way of creating a list. So let's go back up to where we are now going to create a list. And we're going to create a list for January. Okay. You will notice that I press enter or I press right arrow. Same thing. If I'm in my cell and I press enter, I will go down. So if you want to move to the right, you will just press your arrow and it will go to the right. Okay. Now once you are in your cell, you will notice that there is a square right there. And when I click on the square, or I'm not even clicking yet, but you will notice that my plus sign is now black. I can now click on the square and you will notice that it has now picked up that I want to create a list. And you can just drag it until you get to December. So that is a fast way of creating a lot of stuff. And this is recommended, especially if you are working with big spreadsheets. Okay, so we are heading on to the end, and I've now created a list with the months of the year, and at the end I will just manually add the word total because this is where I will add everything up. Okay, so what kind of income do I have? Okay, now a lot of you may have done this already on paper. Some of you may already do it on Excel. I don't know, but it's such an easy way of coming or of planning your month, if I want to call it that. But let me tell you, my two kids are in the school, and yeah, and every month there's something else. And with spring around the corner and new school clothes, all those things. I think every one of you probably also have a column that says unforeseen expenses. Oh, sure. Anyway, okay, so wages is something that this person has for an income. This is a guy, by the way, he's a student. So you'll notice with this spreadsheet that he is a student, and it looks like he's getting wages from a little job that he has, a waitering, or what is his job? I think you guys will probably read it somewhere. Okay, so he also has a little investment where he gets dividends, but he only gets dividends twice a year. Of course, this is America, so you will also notice that the when we add the expenses and things like that, um, when it's break and when the new semester starts and things like that. Okay, so this person has only two kinds of income. The one is wages, the one dividends. Okay, now we obviously want to add the monthly expenses as well. So here I will add total, and of course here I have a total. Now this total will add my monthly expenses. This total will add my wages for all the months, dividends for all the months. So this is a little bit different. It will add the specific income. This will add the month. And of course, this little one right here at the end will add both. Okay, all the totals of the totals. Okay, now it's time to start add numbers. Oh, I think I should take a few seconds just to give you some tips on adding numbers. Okay. First of all, if you have a laptop that has the number pad at the top and on the side, I would recommend using the side. You know that little box, it's called a keypad. So if you have a keypad, use that. If you don't, you have no choice to use the top row. But I think most laptops, they have the little keypad. Okay. Secondly, no matter what, you never, ever, ever enter a rand, a dollar, any kind of money symbol when you enter values. Never ever do that, because Excel will think it's an alphabetical character, and the minute you enter a rand, which is an R or a dollar sign or a pound sign, Excel is going to say, this guy's trying to write a word, and you won't be able to make a calculation with your numbers. Why don't you enter it? Because when we are done entering all of those things, we are actually going to assign a currency. And this is the one that we are using. Obviously, you can see here we have English South Africa. So the currency is going to be assigned here. Okay. So tip number one, never enter the currency like rand or anything like that. Tip number two, never ever use the comma on your computer, which is the comma we use for alphabetical sentences. Never use the comma to insert a thousand separator, because Excel is also going to think that is an alphabetical character, and it is going to be unable to calculate your values. So never enter that comma. Why? Because we have a comma right here, and we use this comma to make thousand separator, or to divide, or to separate thousands from hundreds and thousands. So this is going to be inserted automatically, not by us. You don't enter a comma or a rand. Then, when you enter a number, for example, this number is our first number, you go to your keypad and you say 1000.29, and you can use the point on your keypad. Now you're going to say, but look, it made a comma. Yeah, it does make a comma because it says 29 cents, but of course I used the right button. On my laptop it says DEL or delete. Okay, but above DEL there's a dot, and that is my point button for numbers. Okay, so even though you should not enter a comma which is next to M on your alphabetical keyboard, okay, never use that comma. Excel is going to think you're writing a sentence. You are allowed to use the point on the other side. That is acceptable. Okay. When I press enter, you will notice that my number aligned itself on the right. When you do that, you did it correctly. Let me show you somewhere else here. For example, if I enter a number 1000, and now I'm using my comma 29. Okay. Okay, it did work this time, but now let's enter a rand. It might not work for symbols. Okay. Just notice I'm just making my cell a little bit bigger. Can you see that this number did not go to the right side of the cell? That means that that number is read as a word, an alphabetical character word. Because I inserted the rand, the R, it is now picking up on the R, and it's not seeing anything else. Okay. As you can see here, all words are on the left, whereas all numbers are on the right. So when you enter a value and your value is on the left side of the cell, there's something wrong with your value. So check it out. Okay. Let me delete that before I confuse you all. Okay. So I would like to finish the income part this afternoon, and then tomorrow the expenses part. Okay. So here I have my first wages. Okay. It could possibly be pocket money. I don't know. But it is the same every single month. Let me just double check. It is. So what do you do when a value is the same? Why should you not type in 1000.29, 100.29. What? Because human error. That's why. So why would we want to expose ourselves to human error if we can just drag it? So if you have one value that repeats itself 12 times, you can just click and drag it until you get to December, and it will automatically insert that value all the way through until you get to the end. Okay. So remember not to drag it to total, because total is where we're going to do some calculations. Okay. Now let's look at dividends. So this person is getting dividends twice a year. Okay. So in January, he gets dividends of 400.75. And then another time in September for the same amount. So you are entering that exact same amount here. Okay. All the other months, he doesn't get anything. Okay. So once again, I'm typing a 0. You can just copy your zeros, and here you go, a 0. And if you feel like typing the 0, you are welcome to. Okay. So for his income section of his budget, he has only two things that he can add there. I guess if he did some tips, if he had some tips, or if he was, I don't know, he would have added it here under dividends, and it would have been wages, dividends, something else. Okay. But this is all he's got. So we must use this, and we must now calculate his total income. Okay. Now this is where we're going to enter a formula. So, like I said before, we must calculate each column separately, and then we must also calculate each row. When we calculate, and this is something that I see every year, I don't know why, I actually see students sometimes using a calculator. Let me get out my calculator because this is so funny. And they would actually now sit and do this. Okay, plus, I'm sure you guys are not doing this. I'm just showing you what I've seen before. And then I will enter this answer in here, 5001.04. Okay, but that is not why we use Excel. We use Excel because it does it for us. We shouldn't do it ourselves because that is human error once again. Okay. So the formula we are going to use is also not something that you enter on here. If I wrote it like this, equal sign 1000.29 plus 4000.79, yeah, it's going to give me the right answer. But now I have to do that for every single thing. Okay. That means I might as well have used my calculator. So we don't want to use it like that. So we are going to insert formulas. And a formula is so lovely because if you have the formula, you can copy that formula. Even if I had 10,000 rows that I had to calculate, it can do it in a second by just using a formula. Okay. Now the formula, I'm saying formula, I mean formula for sum is very easy. Always remember the golden rule. When I do a calculation, I always start my calculation with an equal sign, like that. So I'm starting my calculation. What do I do now? Should I now write 1000.29? No, 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 no. Now you take your mouse, and if you haven't got a mouse, you take your finger and you go to the mouse pad and you click on cell B4. Why do we not say 1000.29? Because then it's that value is going to be in there. Again, we would rather like to enter a formula containing values of cells so that I can copy it across. Okay, so I'm saying, actually, I can say this, show you quickly. B4 plus B5, enter. All right, and that is going to be correct. Here we have B4 and B5. I'm going to show you another way now, which is the right way. I just want to show you what's going to happen here. Since I entered a formula, I can now go to the little square in the corner of my cell and I can drag it sideways and I can actually get the answers to all these different things. What happens when I use a cell? Notice here. It started off with B4, B5. When I copy it over, Excel says, okay, the next one will be C4, C5. Then D4, D5, E4, E5, all the way to M4, M5. So if you wrote 1029 plus 4075, that is what would be in that cell. And if you drag your square across, it's just going to replicate or duplicate with that you entered. So it is going to give you the exact same answer all through, which is not correct because in cell C5, it doesn't have 4075 and none of these do. Only this one will be correct again. So it's important not to enter actual values, but rather enter cell values. Now let's use a function. That was a calculation. Now let's use the sum function. So I'm going to go to B6 and I'm going to enter equal sign sum. Sum meaning add together. Okay, and if you look here, it says sum adds all the numbers in a range of cells. And as you can see, this is a range. So once you have entered an equal sign and then typed SUM, all these functions starting with SUM will appear in my little list. And now I will double click on the one I want. Okay. Then I will take my mouse and I will select the range, which is like that. So I'm dragging it through two cells and now I'm just closing the bracket. Closing the bracket is actually not necessary, but for me it is necessary because it doesn't look like it's complete when it's open. Okay, so once again, I'm saying equal sign because that is how you start a formula. Sum is the name of the function. Okay, I didn't insert this bracket myself, okay, because when I double clicked on the function SUM, it opened the bracket automatically. All I had to do was go and drag with my mouse through the range. A range is a block of cells. It can be a huge block, it can be a small block. In this case, just two little blocks. Okay? What does the colon mean in between these two cells? It means up to. So, this formula reads like this. Add together all the values from B4 up to B5. In this case, it's only two cells. But if you had a zillion, it would take the first cell and it would say colon, which means up to, and it will take the last cell. Now I'm going to press enter and it will still give me the right answer. And now I will copy my answer to the end of this line. So once again, I put my mouse in the corner and I drag it out. Now, if I click in each of these cells, you will see the exact same thing happened as did before. It will take the next value, the next column value. So where I started with B4, B5, it will now say C4, C5, D4, D5, and so on until you get to the end. And that is the beauty of using formulas and copying it over. And by doing that, we save ourselves so much time because it's unnecessary to enter 12 formulas simply because there's 12 months. Okay, now let's do the same for this total. What we're going to add now is we are going to add the row, so we're not adding from top to bottom, we are adding from January to December. The formula is the same. Okay. I start with an equal sign and I say SUM. When you say SUM, you choose the function you wish to use. I think for this module we'll only use the sum if also, I'm not sure. But sum, now I take my mouse and I double click on this blue. Okay, now you notice the bracket was inserted automatically. I will now take my mouse and I will drag through all the numbers up to December And again, you don't have to close the bracket, but for me, it's important it doesn't look like it's correct if it's not closed. Okay, so now let's read the formula. The formula says add up all the numbers from B4 up to M4, and you will notice that all the numbers are blue, all the numbers that will be calculated. So by doing this, you can also get a visual on what is going to be added. Okay, now you're ready to press enter. I have my value. Now I will drag down from here and you will notice that it's going to, where this formula started with B4 to M4, this one will now be B5 to M5, and the next one will be B6 to M6. So this value that you see in this block is the total of the totals. So ultimately, this value is your total income. This value is your total for wages. This is your total for dividends. This is your total for January, then each month, and this is your total for everything. Okay. Phew. Right. This is the income part. So tomorrow at 5, we are going to do the expenses part. It's much the same. All right. And then at the end of the expenses, there will be a net, which is the what is left at the end. Okay, so while I'm open here, do you have any questions for me on what we did now? I think the questions will probably come when you guys do it on your own, probably. But I'm all ears if you have something for me now. Okay. Hopefully, you've all known this before. Hopefully. If not, I want you guys to try just this part for today and then tomorrow the next one. Okay. I'm going to stop my recording quickly and then I'll get back to you.